Take away the on-call program? Okay, pay through the nose. My husband was the on-call person. From 5:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day on his days off. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and 5:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. Tuesday, Friday. Which he gets $20 a day just to be on call. If he had to punch in to take a call out, it was normal pay. His work started calling him on his work phone to answer quick questions on his days off. It got to the point where the phone was ringing 38 times a day. I finally said, "This is your day off. Stop answering your phone." He wasn't being paid to do this. It took a bit, but he shut his phone off until his on-call hours. Then they started to call his personal phone. That did it. He told the bosses that unless he was being paid his hourly wage, he would not answer phone calls on his off time and to stop calling his personal phone. They got pissy and decided to stop the on-call program. Now, when there is an emergency, the call-out center has to call through the seniority list to try to find someone to take the job. The problem is that only 4 people know how to fix certain issues because it's an antiquated system. That is being phased out. First guy is just biding his time to retirement, so he doesn't take call-outs. My husband is second, and he passes. Number 3 lives 2 hours from the garage, and he's not going to drive that. Number 4 is also biding his time to retire. So, back around again. Everyone passes. Third time, they can force the low person to take the job, but they have to pay time and 1/2 plus night differential. Oops. Number 4 has had a drink. So, number 3 no answer. Number 2 my hubby well, he guesses he can take it $50+ an hour plus the 1/2 night differential, and after 50 regular hours, he auto gets time 1/2. So he gets the extra half on top of his 1/2, with differential to equal about $130 plus per hour. They could have just given him $20 a day to be on call. Not bothered him during the day, then they would have only had to pay him normal wages. Idiocy. Years back, I worked for a meat packer. I was on the night sanitation crew. The company, trying to avoid unionization, has decided to start meeting with various representatives of the different departments. I was elected to representative night sanitation. My hours were vastly different from office workers, shipping, and most of the maintenance crew. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Meetings were held at 2 p.m. Special trip. But I knew the employee handbook and brought it up. 2-hour call-in is what the handbook said. And since it was off shift, I got it. Then they set up a committee to help with making the plant and pay more beneficial. Yup. The president of the company chose me to representative the overnight crew. Again, I got the call pay. A couple people, including my father-in-law, didn't like me making that extra, but I was just following the rules they laid out. Working on-call as a nurse always bothered me. For context, the on-call policy in our health system is that if you get called in, for whatever reason, management has to pay you for 4 hours minimum, irrespective of how many actual hours you are there for. For example, if X-ray gets called in throughout the night, they get paid for 4 hours even if they are only there for 1 hour. With nurses, if we get called in, they usually make us stay for the minimum 4 hours. But usually we are there much longer. Years ago, I was working on call as a medical retrieval nurse, flight nurse, as well as in ICU. We had to be on call for this, which I did not mind as it was an interesting experience. Role, and usually being called in to fly out on the helicopter meant that I would be gone for several hours, often more than 4 hours. However, if we were called in and the time was less than 4 hours, we were allowed to leave once the job was over and all of our responsibilities were done. That brings me to straw that just about broke me. I had just finished an evening shift at 10 p.m. and was on call overnight. I got told about a possible retrieval in the works and got asked to stay back while they were sorting out the logistics. This was supposed to take approximately an hour. So I said yes, and planned to get something to eat first about 15 minutes into this hour. I get asked to go help out in Ed while they are sorting things out. I had no problem with this request as I was bored. At the 45-minute mark, I get told that due to poor weather conditions the retrieval is not happening. I let the team leader in Ed know this and get ready to leave. Remember, I am only on call for retrieval. She promptly tells me that I am not allowed to leave as I have been called in, and they have to pay me for 4 hours, so I may as well work in Ed for those hours. I was not impressed, as this sort of ploy was part of the reason we were hemorrhaging on call staff. Management had been using us as a casual pool, it and the nursing supervisor, only to be told that I had to stay until Ed got on top of the rush. After about 3 hours I got back from taking a patient to the ward and note that there is no one in the waiting room and everything is quiet. So I rang the supervisor and told her that as Ed is now civilized I am going home. She reluctantly agreed, particularly when I reminded her that I could still be called out for a retrieval later in the night and needed to get some sleep. When I told the team leader I was leaving, she chucked a tanty and said I still had to stay until 2 a.m. It was 1 a.m. as was called in. I told her to take it up with the supervisor and walked out. When I got paid that fortnight I had to argue with management as they put down my 3 hours of overtime but didn't factor in that I had been called in and had to be paid for 4 hours. After that, whenever I was on call, I would go home and tell them to call me when and if the retrieval was happening. Unfortunately, mismanagement like that spelled the beginning of the end for the hospital-based retrieval service ads. I knew it. Having said all that, I don't miss the late-night call-outs or back-to-back flights to Whoop Whoop. Sounds like they're stepping over $1 to pick up a dime. Incompetent management who can't see the forest through the trees. Make that money. Sometimes, management's incompetence can be a win for you. I once got paid 2 hours OT nightly to arm the alarm at our building because they wouldn't hire my coworker permanent full-time. It took me a total of 15 minutes because I live 5 minutes away. This went on for 3 months. He eventually got hired, but it cost them an extra $10K. $20. How about no? Scott. Our unofficial rule was if they page or call you when on call was 2-hour minimum just to call them back in 4 hours if you had to go in. What does your husband do? $20 a day for being on standby sucks. Which he gets $20 a day just to be on call. Someone's getting taken for a ride here. In their eyes they won because they made him do it. The second to last paragraph was turned into title size by the hash, since that's a Reddit markup symbol. You can disable it by adding before it hashtag turning this hashtag into this. Guy is just biding his time to retirement. WTF does this have to do with it? He's still getting paid and still on the team, right? And before they call him, the team should go through 2 pages of flow sheets to try and troubleshoot themselves. The 4 of them need to have an on-call rotation and plan accordingly. Draw names out of a hat for weeks and holidays for the year. Or make an incentive for $100 for whomever picks up the on-call phone first in a round robin. Whatever phone setup. That whole last paragraph is incomprehensible. It's a hospital, they make it back much quicker. We all know that one person who has to learn poop the hard way, rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing. Good on your husband. I love it when management gets hoisted by their own petard. That's why they are management geniuses, lol.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.